All right, so we're back at the shop, and look who just pulled up. The guy that saved my ass on top of Brown Mountain. So, now that I have everything apart, you can actually see what's going on with it. It's pretty fucked. So, I'm gonna cut out all of that shit, build new metal there, and I'm just gonna weld the spacers in and put a nut on the bottom of the spacer. Make my life a little bit easier, because I am not trying to fix all of that nonsense. Alright, so Luke's gone, we got his sunroof all sealed up, and I've made a little bit more progress. The trailing arm's off now, so you can see a little bit better of what the damage looks like. That side's not too bad, there's a little dent right here, but it's pretty good. This side, on the other hand, it's pretty beat. The mount for the bolt is actually just free in there. So I think I'm going to cut this section off right here, plate this top part back over to the frame, and I'm going to use bar steel from here over to the other side of the frame right here, because this metal is really sturdy and thick, so I should be able to get a good bit of penetration on here to here. This is somewhat thick, but it's kind of thin, so we'll see what I can make happen. Alright, so started to cut it away a little bit, and I see why it broke. There was a little, this fella, it was up in here, and that just twisted inside there, and that caused the flimsy metal that I just cut off to twist underneath it too, because it was just kind of sandwiched between two different pieces of metal. So now I'm going to have a thick 2x2 that's going to go from here over to there on that frame rail, and I feel like that should be more than strong enough. So I still got a little bit more to plate, like right up there actually, and then we'll weld in the square tube across here. I cut out everything that was right there, and now I'm going to plate it off. I gotta hammer it all back in, kind of weld it back together just to give it some more strength right there. But then I'm gonna plate it off, and then I'll be welding the 2x2 from here over to there just to give it as much strength as possible, hopefully. And then I think we should be good. But we might go test it out this weekend at URH, so we'll find out, won't we? Hopefully it doesn't break again. That would be 3 weekends in a row. But I'm having a good time. And I kind of missed these late nights at the shop. I mean, it's 10 o'clock right now. I'll probably be here till at least 2 a.m. So it'll be all right. Let me get this knocked out. Got my new trailing arm spacers made up. 3x2 turned sideways with a 2x2 stacked underneath it with it welded together. And I plated it up on the other side just to give it some more strength. It's still kind of hot. So what I had to do basically, since I'm no longer going to be able to put a bolt all the way through and thread it into the body, this is going to end up getting welded to the body right along here. Well, to the metal that I'm putting in there. And then I will have this bolt, which then goes through the trailing arm and then into the nut that I welded in there to be the captive nut now. So I've made a little bit more progress over here. I have a general idea of what I think I'm gonna do with it now. I just need to plate up everything because it's still open. But I'm gonna have another piece of 2x2 that runs right here, another one right here, and I might do one in front of that too, just for overkill, just cause I can, and I might as well do it once and make it super strong. So I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting out plates to put up here and to kind of seal everything off, and then I'm going to get back to cutting these so I can jam those up in there and then burn them all in. So it's now 4 a.m. I made a mistake. I measured incorrectly, had to cut off the plate that I had put on there and cut a little bit more and then replate it. So that's been done now. And now the bars are in, all 3 of them, all welded together. And then I just need to clean off this frame rail right here and then just weld these in along the seam, up here on each side, on the front on each side. And then I have the trailing arms, the trailing arm spacer sitting right here. I'm using the bar to kind of help me reference how wide they should be. And this is the bolt that I told you I was going to use to help align it with that hole right there that used to be for the bolt, but it is not anymore. So that's just gonna go up there like that, and then I will adjust and then weld it all in. The bars are starting to be welded in. I'm letting it cool off right now and just dump some water on it to oh yeah, I just laid in the water too. That was smart. I dumped water on it so it didn't get so hot and make it so easy to burn through the thin metal. But we're getting somewhere. Ignore my ugly booger welds. I'm just trying to patch things back up. But yeah, as soon as that's all welded up, we'll go ahead and weld those in place as well. Alright, so I just had the trailing arm on to test fit it to somewhat mock up where these trailing arm brackets needed to be, spacers, whatever you want to call them. So that's all welded in. This is tacked in, it's welded on the back side. I was getting the location for this one, and I guess my measurements were a little off because there's a little bit of a gap. So I'm just gonna stack 2 washers underneath it and it'll be fine. It'll work. Not ideal, but it is what it is. For a fix like this, I'm okay with that, especially it being my first time doing something like this. So I'm gonna get back to it and hopefully I can get out of here before 8 a.m. because it's already 6. People are rolling into work. Alright, so it's all back together, it's back on the ground. I might throw a couple more triangles at it, but for right now I'm going to leave it where it is because I'm tired and I want to go to bed and take a shower. I've been up for 24 hours, well actually 25 at this point, but things all good. I'm going to drive it out. It still needs a string alignment so I can drive it to somewhere to get an alignment because that's a lot of camber. But that's a problem for another time. I also got to bleed the brakes, but I'll do that later tonight. I'm gonna go home and take a nap. I did not come back yesterday. I was far too tired after spending 25 plus hours up working. Of course, 10 hours of those were work hours, and then 15 of those were working on the CRV, building all this nonsense. But everything's all done. I just did a quick alignment. I say I did a quick alignment. I adjusted the camber. I'm about to adjust the toe with the string alignment, which is where you tie string around the spoke, wrap that around the back side of the wheel, make sure it touches here and here, and you drag that all the way up front, and you see if it's barely contacting this. If it's barely contacting that with the string tight, touching both those ends, then you know that your toe's pretty much good. This is literally just to get me to where I can drive it so I can go to a place to get an alignment done, because I'd prefer to just have a proper alignment done with a hunter machine rather than just string it and then hope for the best, because I don't want to spend another $1,000+ on tires. So we'll go ahead and do the string alignment real quick and then we'll get on out of here. Well, since I have all this extra work done, I had toe arms a long time ago by cutting them down, making the center section a little bit shorter, and now I'm having to adjust it out, which is the exact opposite of what used to happen. So what I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna swap back to a factory toe arm because it's longer, and that should give me the adjustment I need, and I still have all of this to go inward if I need it, so I think I might swap back to the factory ones. Alright, so I looked around the shop for there's another toe arm bracket, or toe arm I should say, not the bracket, but I didn't have one in here. We don't have a spare one at the shop. The shop CRV still has one on there, and it aligns out fine with the drop kit and everything. I measured it out. It's 5.5 inches. I took half an inch off of my aftermarket ones. So I'm gonna go home and hopefully I still have these somewhere. I'm pretty sure I do. And then I will go ahead and slap those in, then go get it aligned. But I'd rather have something that doesn't have threads to pull the threads out, because I've already had that happen once. I had skunked two camber kits on here, and they have an aluminum center, and I pulled the threads out of the center. It was pretty sketchy, so I really don't care for any adjustable link like that. I'd much rather have something totally solid. Of course, I need these to be adjustable, so I made ones out of steel. But for the toe, I have a slot to adjust toe with, so I can get rid of this without an issue. So I'm gonna do that when I get home. So we'll go ahead and take this thing home now. I got the car aligned and everything. Everything's all finished up. Drives great, but I have positive camber on this side now. I had it on the other side when I first put the plated arm on that side, which tells me that the trailing arms that I had on there previously, these ones right here, were definitely bent this way somewhat, so it was causing me to have negative camber that I was then adjusting for with longer camber arms. So now the camber arms are completely bottomed out, all the way tight, so it should be negative, or at least 0. But no, I have 1.5 degrees with them all the way tight. So I have a second set, my spare ones, that are sitting right here, that these are gonna go on. I'm just gonna make sure that they're the right length, and then I'm gonna go ahead and replace this center with that center, and then do another string alignment real quick. It's not ideal, but it is what it is. This is the camber arm that I made when I first built the camber arm, the arms themselves, I guess. And this is the one that I ended up putting on after about a few months of off-roading, which tells me that this one was correct for a trailing arm that isn't bent. And then I had to make that one because my trailing arm was slowly starting to bend and I was getting too much negative camber. So, the original one's going back on. Gotta get the tabs out of it, obviously. But that should solve my issue, and I should have corrected camber. But yeah, that should solve my issue, and hopefully I can get it aligned straight and have all the thread engagement that I want, and have my camber zeroed out. So we'll get back to it. Alright, so the camber arm is in. Definitely much more level, or much more closer to 0 camber. I still need to go drive it around to let the suspension settle, and then I will tighten up the camber bolt. After it settles, I'll adjust the camber, and then I'll do a quick string alignment to adjust the toe. I dialed in the camber with a bubble level. I didn't show that on video, I forgot to hit record. And then I did the quick string alignment to make sure the toe was good. And with it touching the front tire, it's just barely not touching on the back, just a little bit towed in, which is what I prefer, because these things like to tow out on compression, which makes the back end handle really bad, so I leave it a little towed in. So that's that. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching. That's the end of today's video. Go ahead and like, comment, share, and subscribe. The next video I post will probably be me and a small group going out to either somewhere in the North Carolina mountains, hopefully in Cherokee, or maybe Charlie's Creek. The group hasn't really decided yet, but we'll pick somewhere and we'll be out this weekend, so I'll get some footage then. Y'all take care, have a good night.